The High Priestess being the overall. This is, I think, in your case, about information that kind of comes out that you weren't aware of. And I don't think that it's about you keeping any kind of secrets here. I think that it was something that you knew, but maybe you didn't know the full extent of, right? Like I always say with the High Priestess, it's like you know, but you don't have the facts to support it. You know, and I really think that that's kind of what's happening here. And I think that you, for a moment, are going to go through like a pause, you know, and really reconsider on whether or not this is something that you want to continue. Or are you going to remain separate from or independent from what is like essentially kind of like coming out here? So from the beginning, you coming in with the Seven of Wands, you know, this is fighting off the opposition, right? Standing up for what you believe in. You know, there's definitely the defensive type of communication about what you will and won't deal with. With the Empress showing up on their side, I think that for a lot of you, you may be dealing with a person here who, how do I put this? It's almost like they're too giving and open to other people, but it's not in a deceptive type of way, if that makes sense. Because I don't really see the deception with the High Priestess. I just think that it's something that you should have known about that may like change your decision or change your mind on how to move forward with the relationship. Now, this could definitely be pointing to, you know, another female here though, too. Looking at the Empress, right? Because if we're not talking about them and we're not talking about, you know, them being nurturing and giving and sharing of their abundance, then we can definitely be talking about, you know, another female here, a mother figure, children being involved, things like that, right? But you're still fighting for the relationship, but you're also making it known what you're not going to deal with. You know, and if they're, in this case, a little bit too giving of themselves and what they have to other people, that may be where you're like, stop doing that, you know. Now, you move into this place where you're kind of like meeting each other. You showing the Knight of Pentacles, I don't think is about you moving into a place where, you know, just friends, right? I look at that more so as you're being stubborn and you're being set. This is the way forward. I am not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change what I have expressed. There are things that I'm not going to deal with. I'm not going to put up with. They are taking that information in now and looking at how, you know, we can get things going, because you're both looking forward. I don't think that you're looking backward in this case. Because you move into the Four of Wands. So, you know, and then going back to the Page of Pentacles, like I always said, this to me is like starting over. Let's rebuild. You know, let's get this going, but let's be, you know, realistic, right? But it's also about the students, you know, somebody who's taking information that they have learned and using it and applying it in a way where they get to build what they want. So I think that that's really about them taking in what you have said to them, what you have expressed to them. And you're not budging on that. I don't blame you. Now, back to the Four of Wands. So here is where we start to see the stability. Now, this could really be about, you know, you thinking about moving in with another person here. Or we're talking about literally being able to celebrate your union, which would be great, absolutely great, you know, but we're still talking about getting to at least some accomplishment within the relationship that's worth celebrating, being happy about, right? That's how I see the Four of Wands. With the Fool, they're all in. It's like they completely just all in. Like, okay, you know, I have no more hesitations. I have no more reservations. I want to see where this goes. Now, unfortunately, though, something happens here where, and I think that they have full intention on, you know, doing everything possible to kind of like move forward with you, because they could easily have taken this information here and said no. But with the Fool, this is a clear indicator that they're like, you know, all in, ready to jump into it. Now, and this is where I go back to the High Priestess. With the Eight of Cups on your side, there's going to be at least some kind of consideration here of not putting in any more toward this. It was only because of their ability to take a leap of faith that you feel like there is some, at least, you know, stability with your relationship now. But I believe something comes out. And I think it's directly related to the Empress being what they're pulling in on this. And like I said, that could have to do with another female. It could have to do with children. It have to do with somebody who is pregnant. Or like I said, we're talking about somebody who has been a little bit too giving to others. And they may have been giving in a way that you didn't know about. And like I said, I say that because you're looking at the Eight of Cups. Nothing here indicates that you should be considering moving on with the way that they're responding to you at every step. So then you're looking at the Nine of Pentacles in between the both of you. Now this could literally be about somebody who is needing to find some independence, you know, and I don't necessarily feel like it's you. I feel like it's them, because you're the one that's coming in going, look, stop it, you know. Now, some of you though may start to see that what is going on is not necessarily a bad thing. Because of the Sun being here, I look at this as, okay, this came out in a way that I didn't want it to come out, and, you know, I wasn't expecting it, but let me clear it up. Let me show you everything, you know. I would have liked the Ace of Swords there, but there is nothing to hide. Everything is out in the open now. But is it creating a situation where, you know, life is being breathed back into the relationship moving forward? And do you feel like you need to remain independent from what is going on with them and what you find out about? You know, I don't usually feel that way about the High Priestess, but this is a huge indicator that this could definitely be about something that you weren't aware of. And then the Four of Swords, wow. So, and I think for you, it's not so much that this person stops communicating. I think that you need to take a time out, like literally, right? All right. So, and here's what I'm getting from this, just looking at the Sun. With the Four of Pentacles and the Eight of Swords, this very clearly has been something that they have been like keeping to themselves. I look at the Four of Pentacles and I think that the only way to make sure that nothing changes and that there is, you know, maintaining of stability is if I hold on to this. And with the Eight of Swords, it's, you know, I've been trying to hang on to all of this, but it's keeping me stuck. I can't move forward. You know, I can't see a way out of this. This is the only way to deal with this situation, another person, whatever the case is. It's like, you know, I've been trying to keep this in. Now, with the King of Pentacles coming out, though, you know, what were they gaining? What were they gaining by continuing to do this? By trying to maintain something, and possibly in secret? That's kind of how I feel about this. You know, and it could definitely have to do with, like, money, right? And not wanting to pay money, which can absolutely be possible here. So now looking at your Eight of Cups, with the Nine of Wands, I don't think that this was something that, first of all, that you were expecting. But I do think that a part of you knew. So now there's definitely, you know, seeing everything, but then also needing to face a truth. But I think that with the Nine of Wands, you've had enough battles with this person very clearly here with the Seven of Wands, that this is just one too many. Because you're pushing the Ten of Wands here. But I think that for you, you're getting to the point where it's like, what else am I going to have to deal with? What else am I going to have to find out about? That's what I feel looking at that. And I feel, you know, tired, and I'm wore out, and I'm tired of dealing with this. Why are you continuing to try to keep things going with this situation, this person? It doesn't make any sense. You know, it's time to, like, face the truth. you know, and that goes for you too. But absolutely, there's the truth about everything. And it's the truth that is showing that it's hard for, you know, this person to see mental clarity. So they choose to stay in a situation where nothing changes. Nothing is changing. They can't see their way out of this, but it's so clear. And I think it's so clear to you too. Like, just do what you're supposed to fucking do. Like, you know, and I think that for you, this is where the timeout kind of comes into play, especially with the Eight of Cups. But like I always said with this one, I always get the feeling that she's kind of looking back like, you better be paying attention to the fact that I'm getting ready to walk the fuck on. I'm tired of dealing with this. You better be seeing this. I need you to notice. But like I said, with the Four of Swords, it's like, I need a timeout. But I'm still looking at this as like, what was it that you thought that you were going to gain by doing this? So I don't necessarily feel like this is going to be a cheating scenario or anything like that, or you finding out something like really shitty about them that you didn't already know. I think that you already knew about an existing situation involving this person. I don't think that you knew the extent. And I think that that is kind of what comes out. And remember, guys, this is a general message. Believe me, this is specific for somebody. This is not going to be for all of you. But I question the motives. I really do. I have to be honest with you. I question the motives of the King of Pentacles here. You know, he may be worried about his financial state. And that may be why he's continuing to, you know, try to maintain balance with a situation that he shouldn't be doing anymore, he or she. But he clearly can't see a way out. You see the truth. It's like, you know, how can you not see this? How can you not understand this? I think that with this Ten of Cups, especially considering that we're talking about singles, that this is showing either you or somebody else walking out on you. And that is what I'm feeling around this. With the Two of Pentacles being underneath that, you're talking about somebody who is too embarrassed to approach somebody else. So I think that we're talking about, you know, Geminis here who have, either which way here, have gotten out of a situation where somebody was oblivious to the fact that another person was not happy, whether that was you or the other person. But I think it opens up an opportunity here where I think somebody may be trying to approach you. Now, with the Eight of Cups, though, it's like, I'm not having that. And, you know, I like you, but don't push it, right? Like, you maybe being a little bit too pushy here. You know, just back off for a minute. It's funny because it has like the King of Pentacles type of feel, but with the Four of Cups here, we're talking about routine, boredom, right? So I think that the reason why this person is wanting to approach you, but maybe having issues, is because they're not exactly somebody that you would be interested in, if that makes sense. But then you move into the Seven of Pentacles with the Ace of Swords. Now, this is an interesting combination in of itself, because you're talking about somebody who's become lazy in the relationship. So I almost look at that as somebody stops trying. But then with the Ace of Swords, you know, are you like seeing a truth about this person that they're not really willing to kind of follow through, right? So it's like, okay, great. I'm, you know, it's nice that you're approaching me. I don't really have a whole lot of interest in you, but it's almost like you turn around and say, well, how come you're not trying anymore? You know? So do you start to begin to, you know, trust that maybe you need to, you know, see where this is going, and maybe get to know this person, spend some time with this person, especially if you're meeting them somewhere else, you know? But even still, though, the combination in the beginning makes me think that this person knew that you were in a relationship before. You know, now we could totally flip the script on this. Gemini may be the one here that is like hesitant on approaching another person. You know, but they may not be having it. It's just not interesting. But something changes, though, with that Ace of Swords. Okay. Okay. And that's, now it makes sense. That's kind of where the trust is coming through. I see. I see. But the thing is that you got to get it out there, right? So, first of all, with the Tower, for crying out loud, I think, though, that, you know, I mean, it could go either way, right? Like I was going to say, if somebody is walking out in a relationship, it could be because of cheating here. And this could be because of something that you did or somebody else did. Regardless, though, I feel like that Two of Pentacles is something separate. It's like this already happened. But you still have somebody who is like wanting to approach you, you know. But now this could be, you know, what has happened in this person's life, though, too. It just depends on the situation. When you move into the Five of Swords, though, you're talking about somebody who feels inadequate. They don't feel like they're enough. And that may be why there is this initial kind of like disinterest and like rejection. I don't want to be involved in a situation where I don't feel like I'm good enough. You know, especially if you were the one that experienced this by another person, or, you know, if you've been like single for a while and haven't had anybody approach you, well, this may be their situation, but here they come toward you now that the door is kind of like open. But we're still talking about somebody that doesn't feel like, you know, they were good enough. But it is about overcoming inadequacies, feelings of being inadequate, right? The problem is that Four of Cups. It doesn't really suggest that there is, you know, something that's happening there to make you feel better about that or the other person. Now, when you come out of this with the Page of Cups here, yeah, you know, this is like, God damn it, man, I need to say something. I need to say something before it's too late, you know, and stop like being so lazy and start putting forth some effort, you know. And like I said, this could be you or the other person. I feel like I'm being pulled two different ways, which would make sense considering I'm talking about Gemini, you know. I don't ever, when it comes to Gemini and they talk about the duality of the personality, I don't ever see that as two-faced. I see that as the two parts of yourselves that are like in two different worlds that are constantly coming up against each other. Like, wait a minute, we need to find harmony and balance between, you know, each other here. What you're thinking, what you're feeling, right? Like, and I think that for a lot of you, it's, I need to say this. I need to say this. I need to get this out. And I need to trust that this person is going to listen. I need to get off my ass and just do it. But it's hard finding the words. It's hard finding the words to speak the truth. Now, again, like I said, this could literally be the other person, though, doing this. They may not feel like they are good enough for you, you know. And then the Three of Wands. All right. So, first of all, we're talking about, I think, a relationship that at some point ended, but it's not really over with, if that makes sense. The King of Cups. Now, and again, male or female, water, doesn't matter to me, but we're talking about somebody who is in love with you. You're you, them. It's one of the two, because you're talking about romance and love. Now, with the Five of Cups, though, they're needing to apologize for something. But you move into this place where you're not really accepting it, but you're not really rejecting it with the Eight of Pentacles. I think that there are a lot of other things that you are focused on or dealing with at the moment. But there's also a part of you that is like, I need you to back off for a minute because I need to just think about what I actually want in my life and in this relationship. Especially considering that they've had to apologize for something. Now, what worries me here is with the Three of Swords. Are we talking about, you know, you having to deal with somebody who may have left you and got involved in another relationship, but didn't really take care of that? Hopefully they did. But the Three of Wands talks about, you know, we feel the same way. We feel the same way about each other, so this no longer matters, but somebody clearly needs to take care of something. It's interesting to me because they're so opposing. They're so opposing. Now, this, though, could very much be you, though, Gemini, and not very happy with the relationship that you're in, and you may be doing something that maybe you shouldn't be doing. I'm just saying. And then the Seven of Wands. Now, that to me may indicate here that these are the fears and the doubts that you want somebody to, get over, that's no longer the case, right? So that Three of Swords very well could be a situation here where, you're no longer being a part of cheating scenarios, or, that this is like this person trying to explain to you that that's not the case, right? Because the Three of Wands is still a really good thing. The Seven of Wands is different. It gives it a different context here because we're talking about overcoming doubts. With the King of Pentacles, they very well could have been the one here that was like doing this. But what I worry about here, though, is, are you uniting against somebody that still wants to be involved? Which can definitely be the case here, right? Now, the King of Pentacles, though, you're talking about somebody who is extremely pushy. And again, possibly doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had to apologize to you. Now, with Temperance, especially with the Hermit here, I think that you are trying to have this passion rebuild itself. Nobody ever expects to get involved with a person that, is going to do something that they shouldn't do. And we don't ever expect that we're going to forgive them or try to work on things. And I think that this is what's happening here. But you have to make sure, though, that there aren't any more doubts. You don't want to be doubting whether or not this person is continuing to do something behind your back, and, doubting if they truly are, feeling the same way that you are. This, though, like I said, is about overcoming that. But I question this, Gemini. I do. I question it. But for some reason, you're being told to keep an open mind, and I have to keep that into consideration, too. That maybe that Three of Swords is not what's happening in the future. It's just that it's still very much an issue that you have to work through. Whether it was you or somebody else.